Hey everybody, and welcome to the Wholistic Individual Podcast. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, this podcast is a deep down into spiritual, psychological and emotional health. Today we're going to start the first of a 6-week series on the mental health spectrum, which is the foundation that we need to know about before I start talking about depression, anxiety, feelings such as love, joy, happiness, contentment, fulfillment, suicidal idealization. So if I triggered anyone, we're going to be deep diving into things like paranoia and how we deal with these dark human emotions of revenge seeking, jealousy and all of that. But in these first 6 weeks, I'm going to start with the foundation, which is understanding about the mental health spectrum. So understanding the concept of mental health and its role in our physical and emotional well-being, as well as spiritual well-being and psychological well-being, is essential, especially in today's society where we are constantly exposed with a lot of information and demands on our time, from going to work and the endless streaming and Netflix with or without the chill, managing the needs of our family and our friends and our hobbies, and of course our own emotional, psychological and spiritual needs. So you can see that recognizing the difference between mental states, both positive and negative, is one of the most crucial steps in learning to manage, heal, understand and improve your overall mental health, including your emotional and spiritual health. So while mental health is often viewed from a clinical and mass-produced medical perspective, such as prescribing everyone with depression or anxiety with, drugs such as Prozac, it is essential to look at psychological healthcare from an individual and holistic perspective. In our current healthcare, because I'm a lifelong PTSD survivor or sufferer, I like to be optimistic and say survivor. Depression has been part of my life for as long as I can remember. I still battle with it daily. So within this battle, which has been going on over like 25 years now, I have had to come up with I don't want to call them sophisticated, but techniques to help manage my, depression, my post-traumatic stress disorder. It involves being aware of my triggers. So this is how I feel now. I'm at that stage where I can help you, people that, struggle with these sort of like, I'm using commas now, which you can't see, mood disorders, also with trigger warning again, battling with suicidal thoughts. So I'm going to go deep in over, the next year or 2 or 3, because it's not a quick fix. We're going to have good and bad days. We're going to have good and bad hours. That is just the way that it is. So yeah, this podcast will take a holistic look at all the different areas of our life, from our relationships to relationships with ourselves, relationships with other people, how we can manage our physical health goals alongside our spiritual, mental and financial and psychological health goals. So this is the first in the series. I'm going to try and keep these so we can just, have it nice and easily digestible into 15 to 25 episodes, or about 6 of them. Going deep in, these are foundation episodes on the mental health spectrum, and this will help us understand deep concepts when we start talking about things like depression, fear, shame, guilt, feeling drained, resentment, addiction, distrust, rejection, abandonment, hatred. And then we'll start looking at things like self-management, self-expression, creativity, gratitude, curiosity, forgiveness. So yeah, we've got a lot to get through, but this next 6 podcasts will be our foundations for the rest. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit more in depth about the mental health spectrum and the different levels of it. So the direct definition of the mental health spectrum is that the mental health spectrum is an umbrella term that encompasses many different components of mental wellness. Spectrum disorders are various mental health conditions that may manifest in various associated symptoms and behaviours, which I'm going to discuss a bit more in about 5-10 minutes, so stay tuned. These conditions share common traits or may be caused by similar sort of like behaviours, mechanisms. So for some people, their psychological health issues are totally biological, with too much or too little of certain chemicals in their brains. Some people it's environmental, learnt behaviour from the way they was brought up, and influences from their family, the media, or their peer groups. And for some people, and this is going into the spiritual woo-woo level, it's habits that they're brought over from their past lives, which I'm going to probably talk about in about 4 episodes times, because I don't like to skim over things, because in our culture so far we want the 5-minute version, we want the quick breakdown. But having struggled with mental health issues and emotional health issues all my life, it's not a quick fix. Even 20 years into my sort of like recovery, and I'm still recovering, it's not. And then it's not an ending journey, it's a lifelong journey. And once we get into that even if we may experience like a year or 2 or days or weeks or months feeling good, feeling, great, then comes the dip, like if we're on the roller coaster and that it dips, the dips always come. So in simple terms, the mental health spectrum is a vast and complex web of cognitive, emotional, and social aspects, also made up of spiritual aspects as well, that shape how we think and feel and behave in our world, with ourselves and others. So mental health is the way we think, feel and interact with the world around us, and is a major factor in determining your ability to cope with day-to-day life. It influences everything from your ability to form relationships, make decisions, manage stress, and navigate your way through difficult situations. Poor mental health can lead to a range of physical, emotional, and cognitive issues, such as changes in mood, difficulty sleeping, lack of motivation, difficulty in concentrating, and difficulty in socializing with others and even yourself, because we should have fun with ourselves, whether that be gaming, playing an instrument, jumping on the trampoline or indoor rebounder, doing yoga, doing weights, singing, painting, drawing, or whatever it is that watching TV shows even, or whatever it is that makes you feel happy. And often we rob ourselves from the joy because of poor mental health management, or not being aware of how we can manage our mental health and the strategies that work for us, because what may work for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. So it's important that we take our time and try things, and sometimes we may try something and it doesn't work, and in a year or 2 we may try it again and we may find that it helps us with our mental health. So never write something off completely of being totally rubbish to you, because even like for instance, there's a lot of research, I'm going to talk more about this in the spiritual aspects in a while, but there's a lot of research that things like meditation can help us with our mental health. But obviously when you've got racing thoughts and you're in a paranoid or depressed stage, it's hard to sit still, and even in those times it may not be healthy to sit in those and be mindful of those negative emotions. It may be better to distract yourself from them. So the ability to manage our mental health can and not being able to manage it can lead to a decrease in the quality of life and a feeling of being unable to cope with life challenges. Mental health often reflects our overall well-being, with our cognitive, emotional, social and spiritual aspects of our lives weaving together to create like a holistic picture of our mental health state. So this is why it's important that when we're dealing with mental health issues, that we break it down and we take into account all the different aspects. So cognitive aspects of psychological health include the ability to reason, problem solve and make decisions. These skills are not only essential for our daily lives, but for professional success. So, right now, this is just a quick overview, but I'm going to spend, time talking about each of these things, the spiritual, emotional, cognitive and social aspects of our life in more depth in the later date. So, other cognitive functions include learning, memory and concentration, which are integral to forming and maintaining knowledge. So, our ability to, keep in mind our coping strategies when we are triggered and, we're going through our spiral of shame, fear, guilt, or anxiousness spiral. This cognitive ability helps us to remember what to do in these situations. So cognitive influences and the ability to learn and to hold things in memory is really important for mental health, but also, our ability to do so is affected when we're in our, when we're feeling anxious and depressed and stuff like that. So we need to be able to think critically and retain the information we learn in order to make good decisions in our life. Additionally, developing healthy cognitive habits can help us stay focused and productive in our day-to-day tasks. With the right cognitive skill set, we can make the most of our opportunities and reach our maximum potential. Okay. Also, emotional aspects play an integral role in determining the quality of our lives. Self-esteem, the ability to regulate emotions and express feelings all contribute to our overall well-being. So having a healthy view of yourself and your potential is key to building a strong self-esteem. And as you know, when you are experiencing, anxious disorders, depressive disorders, things like, I don't want to be specific because I was going to mention bipolar, but let's just say, because we have to break all of this down and not go too fast. So when we're not experiencing good mental health, we can think that other people are better than us, especially if we look at celebrities and other people on social media like influencers, and looking at other people and comparing ourselves to them. So comparison can feel enlarge and make our self-esteem troubles bigger and make us even stop us from trying to even, you may have a natural talent for singing, drawing, producing, writing, or anything else, and you may think, oh wow, there's so many people in the world that are already doing this, I'll never be as good as them. But one thing I learned about life, it's about finding your own niche, and I believe that for each of us, we've got at least, 0 to 1,000 people who want to see our work in the ways that you do it, specific to you. So there may be, 1,000 or 1,000,000 artists out there, but there'll be a collective of people who will like your artistic or the way that you sing. And so we must always be focused on that. Not all of us are going to be superstars, billionaires and all of that, but not all of us need to be. It's about, having a healthy sense of self and knowing that, building your self-esteem to know that you have value and there's people out there that will find the value in you as well. But first, for that to happen, you have to find the value in yourself. Back to my point, having a healthy view of ourselves and your potential is key to building a strong self-esteem. Being able to manage your emotions and communicate your feelings in an effective and healthy way is also useful, and not only to others like your therapist or your friends, but to yourself as well. An inability to regulate your emotions, understand them, or manage them can lead to disastrous consequences such as depression, anxiety, and even social isolation. To process and understand your emotions so that you can better equip yourself with the tools to be able to effectively and positively express your emotions. and manage your negative, because it's not all about, sometimes we are going to express our emotions in a negative way, but it's about knowing what to do in those times instead of letting ourselves go into that spiral of anxiety and anxiousness. Like I've been there, when you say something wrong and it goes and it plays for years and years, or days and days, or hours and hours throughout your life, and stopping you, because while you're living in your past, you're not living in your present. So learning to manage our emotions can help us bring about more clarity and understanding in our lives. The social aspects of the mental health spectrum is as I was saying earlier, the capacity to form meaningful relationships, or relationships that are healthy, working effectively with others, and participating in meaningful activities to you. Social aspects of life are also needed. We need to understand them and manage them to improve emotional and psychological health. I just want to add, not everybody's a social person. Like, some of us like loads of friends, some of us like our own company, some of us just want, a couple of close circle of friends. So never feel ashamed if you really are not a people person and you don't want to socialize with others. It can put this in your mind of, the socializing that you do with yourself. So like I was saying, whether you like to game, whether you like to knit or do handicrafts, read books, play an instrument, record a podcast, do YouTube videos, whatever's fun to you, it's good to learn how to do it, so you can do it when you're going into those same spirals, or anxious spirals, or guilt, or feeling fearful or nervous, or anything else. So yeah, the capacity to form a meaningful relationship with others or with yourself, and work with others, or work with all the different sides of yourself, right? So the social side of yourself, the emotional side of yourself, the cognitive thinking side of yourself, and the spiritual side of yourself, and participate in enriching and meaningful activities to you, can improve your mental health in a good way. And the lack of being able to do so, socialize with yourself and others, has a negative impact on your mental health. So when we interact with others, we can learn more about ourselves, or as we take time to self-reflect on our behaviours and spend time with ourselves, getting to know ourselves inside out can make us become more in tune with ourselves and our values. And if you like to spend time with other people, doing so can also help you become more in tune with yourself and your values as well. So we can learn from others, grow as individuals, and find purpose and fulfillment for our life. This is why it's so vital that we actively seek out, a social relationship with ourselves or others, and make an effort to create a meaningful relationships with others, or as I said, with yourself, because through these interactions, or through this self-awareness, getting to know yourself, you can find joy, support and understanding, which can help you to lead a much happier and fulfilling life. And just know that, for all you social beings out there, that toxic relationships are never, you should, well, I'm not saying to avoid them completely, even though I do believe so, but keeping them at a distance and setting boundaries in relationships can help us to keep them healthy, and to stop us from, abusing others, and stop others from abusing and manipulating ourselves as well. So yeah, the spiritual aspects of the mental health spectrum are often overlooked. However, it's important to, consider the spiritual aspects of mental health in order to maintain overall well-being. So, practicing mindfulness, meditating and engaging in, whether it's prayer, if you're into that, going for a walk barefoot in nature, going fishing, spending time in nature another way, like surfing if you live near a beach, or just going for a walk, or whatever it is you do to stay in tune with nature, can help you as well. So, growing a sense of spiritual connectedness in your life can help you. But again, when we're anxious, suffering from depression, living in fear, guilt and shame, and when I say living, 100% or 75% living there, I believe that, we're going to fall back into again, I'm doing commas, negative emotions at least 70 to 25% of the time, sometimes up to 50%. But it's good to aim. The optimum for me is 51% in a happy state throughout the day. That's good. For some people you may think, oh, that's poor, but when you've lived like I have, in 0 or to 10% of always in that negative spiral. 51% is good. Sometimes I'm up at 70 or 80, I'm not going to deny that, but I try and aim for 50 so I don't go into that the perfectionist, because my depression and stuff comes from that, and not feeling good enough, and regrets over the past and same and stuff like that. So yeah, going back on track. So yeah, meditating, yoga, tai chi, mindfulness can help you become more aware of your emotions and psychological states, helping you see things from a different perspective, and help you cope with stress and anxiety and depression and other mental health conditions in a more healthy, meaningful way. Additionally, some of you may decide to become part of a spiritual community online, which it could be, an intellectual, philosophical, or religious or spiritual community that can, help you feel a sense of comfort, acceptance, and belonging. Because the belonging is a big one. A lot of us feel alone, because increasingly we're on our mobile phones and other technological devices, and finding it hard to communicate with each other in a normal basis as well. So a sense of belonging, things that can help us, have that sense of belonging in healthy ways without going into toxic habits like, toxic relationships or overindulging in drugs and alcohol, which I'm talk a bit more about later. So being around supportive individuals with similar values can help build resilience and bring you a sense of inner stillness and balance and make you feel happy. Having a poor mental health, can affect your ability to have a spiritual life, because if you're suffering from a mental or emotional health condition, it can be difficult to find time to enjoy solitude, especially if you feel like you're anxious, you don't have any friends, and spending more time alone for you don't bring solitude and a sense of peace. It'll bring more a state of loneliness and stuff. Or also when we have poor mental health, we can find it hard to engage in spiritual activities such as meditation, yoga, breath work, tai chi, and other things that gets us in tune with our inner world and nature and whoever we call the higher power. Mental health issues can also, cause us to struggle with things like insomnia, having racing thoughts, or experience feelings of hopelessness, and of course, anxiety, which can make it hard to focus on the spiritual aspects of life. It can lead again to a lack of self-confidence, which can make you feel disconnected from your faith or spiritual beliefs, or not believing it at all, totally shutting that side of you out, because mental health issues gives us that feelings of fear, isolation, being alone, guilt, or shame. So it makes it difficult for us to seek or believe in spiritual guidance. So yeah, I thoroughly believe if we start looking at mental health as a spectrum, we can improve our overall mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health, and learn to manage ourselves in all the different shades of our beautiful moods. So we can see that understanding the concept of the mental health spectrum is essential to gaining a comprehensive view of overall mental wellness. The mental health spectrum module or way gives us a way to conceptualize how mental health can exist on a continuum, rather than it just being like a static thing, like, oh, you've got depression, or you've got anxiety, or you've got bipolar, or other mental health disorders, and seeing it as symptoms rather than saying that you either got this mental health condition or that mental health condition. I hope that I've explained that well. And on the mental health spectrum, we have both positive and negative mental states, and I'm going to talk about those, because want to do it justice in about, episode 4 of these first 6 episodes on the mental health spectrum. So yeah, the mental health spectrum acknowledges that mental health is not binary. Instead, multiple points along the spectrum can be experienced at any given time or throughout an individual's lifetime. The mental health spectrum model of things allows for us to understand mental health beyond the traditional label-based medical model and allows for exploration of an individual experience. So this is more of an individual, holistic, comprehensive approach to viewing mental health and breaking it down into the components of the cognitive aspects, the social aspects, the emotional aspects, and the social aspects as well. And it can help us, develop interventions. So when we are triggered, to help us manage, we can understand if it's a cognitive trigger, if it's a spiritual trigger, if it's an emotional trigger, or if it's a psychological trigger, and how we can, differentiating can help us manage ourselves better in any given moment. So on one end of the mental health spectrum, there's a range of positive emotions and positive mental states, such as contentment, joy, enthusiasm, feeling confident, and self-awareness. And then on the other hand, there are negative mental health states such as feeling fearful, shame, guilt, hatred, depressed, anxious, and traumatized in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I'm just going to talk a bit more about the mental health spectrum. The idea of a mental health spectrum has been around for some time, but has recently become more widely accepted in like the past 10, 15 years. The mental health spectrum model views psychological health as not a fixed state, but a continuum of wellness that shifts over time. Everyone can be seen as having a unique place on this spectrum, depending on their current mental state. So that's the key word. In traditional medicine, mental health is fits you're clinically depressed or you're schizophrenic, you have bipolar, and there you are for the rest of your life. It's static, it can't be fixed, you just fit into that box and that's it. But the mental health spectrum model sees that everybody's got a different place on the spectrum, and this can change from day to day, week to week, year to year. So understanding the spectrum model of mental health is essential to understanding how mental health can fluctuate and how individuals can manage their own mental health. It is also important to remember that mental health is a complex and dynamic, changing, flexible concept, and that there's many factors influence it. And I've said that a couple of times because I just want to really drive it home that, because I know with me and my depression and my post-traumatic stress disorder, you just feel, wow, this is my life. I'm always going to be triggered. I can't, ever get over it. I can't manage my symptoms. There's nothing I can do about it, but it's important to know that there is things that we can do about it. And as I said earlier, even if we try something and we feel that, it's not working for us now, 5, 10 years or even a year or a month or 2 down the line, that same thing that we thought was hopeless, can become, one of your coping strategies. At first, I couldn't meditate. And now it's one of my coping strategies that I use. So, if I just tried it when I tried it and thought, oh, I can't do it and gave up, it wouldn't be such an invaluable tool to me as it is now. So now I'm going to talk about one of the key studies that helped develop the mental health continuum, view of mental health. It's called From Languishing to Flourishing in Life. It was published in the Journal of Health and Social Behaviour, Volume 43, Number 2, Mental Health, Issues of Measurement and Dimensionality. And this was published in June 2002. So 300 adults were surveyed across the different levels of mental health population. The researchers in this study did a review of a previous study conducted in 1995. So this was sort of like a data analysis. So the original study conducted in 1995, but reviewed in 2002 or somewhere around that. Sorry, that was 3,000 people. So yeah, the study involved people of both sexes, between, or all sexes if you prefer that, between the ages of 25 to 74, and they was asked to complete a survey asking them different, questions about their mental health and stuff like that, and their overall well-being. And the responses that they, said was used to determine the participants' mental health status. So 17.2% of people fit the criteria for flourishing psychological health. So they were always, happy, flourishing, meeting their targets in life, and mostly enjoyed, balanced mental health, positive mental health. So, 9 times out of 10 they reported, that they was, performing well in all areas of life, they had energy, and that they were meeting their goals and targets in life. 56.6% of people were averagely psychologically healthy. So amongst this group, they would have positive moments where they were calm and they feel like that they was meeting, their requirements in life, but they weren't, overperforming or high performance in that. They were getting enough sleep. They reported, things like eating normally and having, some sort of social life, or being content in that area. 12.1% of them were, in their own words, experiencing languishing, so poor mental health. So these people reported feeling, anxious a lot of the time, depressed, tired, not meeting their targets in life. They weren't sleeping well, they weren't eating well, that sometimes they felt that they were, having very low moods and, just not coping in general. 14.1% of all the people sampled at the time fitted the DSM-3 criteria, which is like, the DSM is the symptom list of mental health disorders, and medical and psychology professionals use it to diagnose people and stuff. So 14.1% of those had the criteria for a major depressive episode which they experienced within the last 12 months, and 9.4% of those, of the 14.1% who met the criteria for major depressive episodes, were from the average psychologically healthiest group, and 4.7% had poor mental health. So the survey findings were used to create a mental health continuum, highlighting the various stages of mental health from languishing to flourishing. The risk of major depressive event was 2 times more likely among those with poor, languishing psychological health than those with average mental health. And those with poor mental health, so the 12.1% that I mentioned earlier, were 6 times more likely to have a depressive episode than those that had, flourishing mental health, which was 17.2% of the people surveyed, or the data that was reviewed in this particular study. So the results of this study provided crucial insights into mental health, and it was used to inform policies and programs designed to improve overall well-being. The data showed that there were demographic and socio-economical factors that contributed to mental health. So, money, age, gender, culture, ethnic background, and, money and stuff like that, career. The survey also provided insights into how individuals can achieve a sense of well-being, including recommendations for lifestyle changes, self-care practices, and social support networks, or coping strategies those with poor mental health reported lower self-satisfaction and higher levels of strain. Those with higher flourishing mental health exhibited higher life satisfaction and lower levels of stress. The results of this study provided, a valuable insight into the correlation between mental health and life satisfaction. So, I'm of the belief if we don't have good, emotional or balanced, or we don't know how to manage and understand our emotional spiritual and emotional health, then this affects our ability to have, the careers we want, or, be self-employed, or just enjoy life. So, mental health is a foundation, as well as physical healthcare foundation for living, a balanced and successful life. And this correlation between mental health and life satisfaction was found to be statistically, so that's the science, backed up by science, significant, suggesting that improving one's mental health can lead to increased life satisfaction and lower levels of stress. These results have important implications for the way we approach mental health and well-being, especially in the terms of understanding the importance of interventions that target mental health. The study also supports the importance of mental health in well-being, overall wellness and quality of life. Individuals who could maintain mental wellness were more likely to flourish, have high performance, be high energy and the rest of it, and be happier in general in all areas of life, so financial, physical, spiritual, emotional, psychological. And the study further supported that those who languished or had poor mental health may be at an increased risk for physical health problems, social isolation, and took more time off work or did not work at all, and had a decreased quality of life and experienced more time periods of being in psychological distress. So yeah, that's the science for why the mental health continuum approach of looking at mental health issues is important, and this is why I'm choosing to take so much time to talk about it as the foundation for all the other episodes that I will make for you over the years, to talk about every single aspect of spiritual, emotional, psychological and cognitive health. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to end this episode here because I talked about quite a lot. Next week I'm going to explore the different levels of having good. What does it mean having good or poor, average or fair mental health? And just keep on talking and talking. So yeah, also currently when the study was taken, they were still in DSM-3. Right now, psychologists and therapists and those in the medical field use DSM-3-TR, which was last revised in 2022, so last year. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you find value in this content, please like it, please share it, please review it, and thanks a lot for listening, and see you next week for part 2. Okay, take very good care of yourself, and thank you for listening to the Wholistic Individual podcast.